First of all, I want to thank Naga Wolf for letting me use his gameplay of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. I did not want to update my Xbox, so there you go. There is my reason not using my own gameplay. So let's talk about the future of Tony Hawk, because it's one of the things where Tony Hawk has been a very crucial thing in my life when it comes to playing video games, and so far it's gonna go away, and that really sucks because I've played that game so much and I've met so many people from that game that it just sucks to see it like fly out the door immediately, like just to leave and never come back. So let's just face it here that Pro Skater is pretty much dead. There's no real way around this. I mean, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 gets 2 out of 5s, 3 out of 5s, whatever it may be. It's just a flop. Like, it was just a flop. Like, nobody wanted to play that game because of the state that was in. They released it knowing that it was extremely buggy and that it did not play well. They didn't take the time to release this game. They could have pushed it back and put more effort into it, but it was really lacking that effort. And of course, now we see that now because all the people that have been playing it or reviewed it on YouTube videos and previously, other than myself, because I gave a kind of a structured criticism for the entire video because I was the only one who really liked the game when it came out. Now I really don't play it at all because there's just no point. There's not much to do. It's very repetitive. It's very, unfortunate that it's repetitive, but it sucks. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 was the last rope, and literally it was the last rope because the company that made it is a company called Robomoto by Activision. They're not even active on Twitter. Lord knows what they're doing. I don't know if they're trying to like help, patch the game and make it better after it came out. Lord knows what's going on because they don't post on Twitter. They're not on social media. They don't really say anything. I go to their Twitter and there's nothing there for a couple days. The Tony Hawk's Games Twitter hasn't tweeted out in about 6 months. 4 to 5 months, whatever it may be, but they just haven't posted at all. There's no point. It's like they just gave up. They released it. It's like, oh, let me take some money. Like, I don't even know if they made their money back on it, but they sure as hell took mine, and I'm really upset about that because, like, it's a cool game and all, and like I do enjoy playing it, but it's come to the point where it's really hard to play that game because it's just so repetitive. There's so many game-breaking stuff, and it's flooring like how bad this game is. It's terrible. There's so many things that could have been done better, but it just didn't. It just didn't happen. Why there probably won't be a next time. There probably won't be a next Tony Hawk's Pro Skater after this. If anything, if there is, it's got to see major improvements. There's no way you should have released that game like it was. The fact that you have to apply an 8-gigabyte patch to fix things that should have been fixed beforehand is really upsetting to me as a content creator who actually enjoys Tony Hawk and the people who actually go out and buy your game. And that's really sad because the only time I've had, that amount of like space taken up on a hard drive due to a patch is a Call of Duty game, but that's because they have to patch so many things. That game is huge. You got to think about that. Like, they patch like a bunch of stuff at one time. Like, even League of Legends doesn't have a patch that big sometimes. Sometimes the patch is even less than that, but 8.5 gigabytes of patching is completely out of the question. That was just completely crazy. Like, they couldn't finish the game in the time allotted, so why not extend that? I would have extended it. I would have been happy with the extension because the game would have got the ball rolling for this company, and they just couldn't do it. So all eyes were on them, and I mean, they did come through with the patch, but it didn't really like do anything for the game other than fix a few things. There were still bugs. There were still things that were really wonky, and their engine is just kind of weird. Like, they couldn't figure it out. Now, everybody always says, like, why can't Neversoft make the next game? Why can't Neversoft come back to making the next game? Neversoft should come back and make Tony Hawk. It's going to work like that. Neversoft made all the best Tony Hawk games. They should do this. that this, that, and the other thing. Neversoft. The problem with Neversoft coming back is now that Neversoft is merged with Infinity Ward, they're not their own company anymore. So guess what? They're only going to produce Call of Duty. And that really does suck because Call of Duty is in the same hole right now. A lot of people are not happy with the games that are coming out, especially content creators. I mean, Black Ops 3 is a good game. And, you know, the two before it really flopped. Like, Ghost was like, you know, a lot of people didn't like it. Advanced Warfare was okay. I mean, they're getting popularity now, but, like, that time frame is a little late. You got to think about that because most people didn't like those games. So they went back to Black Ops 2 and stuff like that. But the problem is, Infinity Ward has produced nothing but Call of Duties for the past, I don't know, decade. So you have to think about that. They can't just go and say, hey, I'm going to produce the next Tony Hawk game. Then we won't get a Call of Duty. Call of Duty is where Activision makes their money. So obviously they're going to produce Call of Duty. Now, one thing that was extremely strange, if you ask me, the thing is with Neversoft, they were lumped into making Guitar Hero 3 and then all the previous Guitar Hero games after that. That's what kind of killed their company, to be honest, because they couldn't compete with Rock Band. Guitar Hero 3 is where they really, you know, were at their prime, and that's when they made the awesome game that it was. That game was revolutionary for a lot of things. But then Rock Band came around and destroyed them because, hey, guess what? You can play on every single instrument you want. And that's where Neversoft got caught, and that's where Activision had to merge the two companies because they couldn't afford to have them make another Guitar Hero game that was going to flop. When they should have just been making Tony Hawk. Because guess what? Tony Hawk would have never died if Neversoft would continue making the games. I mean, that's a bold statement for me to say because Proving Ground didn't do so well. And that's why they kind of stopped because they were like, oh, Proving Ground didn't do so good. Guess we got to hand the company over to someone else. And they did. They handed it over to Robomoto and they made Ride, the other games that we don't really want to talk about if you're a Tony Hawk fanboy like myself. And it's just rough that we have to deal with those problems because of that. And I mean, the new Guitar Hero game was made by a different company, and that game was just, there's a lot of problems with that game too. Now that brings me to my next topic. So with all these Tony Hawk games dying, pretty much, they're all dead. Where do we go now? Like, what do we do? So there's an alternative to Tony Hawk, and it's called Thug Pro. And a lot of people told me to play Thug Pro. The problem is it's really hard to set up, but because I don't really understand it. It's one of those things where it's like you have to like install some like Tony Hawk's Underground 2, then you mod the game using Thug Pro. There's no real like clear-cut like tutorial to install the game. But from what I've seen from the game is actually awesome. If anything, Activision should be hiring these people who are recreating these maps. Like, some of the stuff they do is crazy on that game. Now, the thing is, there's not really a huge community for that game because, you know, obviously the bigger Tony Hawk games outshine it because they're trying to, you know, it's a bigger game, obviously. Thug Pro is kind of for the OGs who know all about, you know, playing PS2 Tony Hawk online, like, all the time. Like me, myself, Jason, and other people that in the community that I know that started on Tony Hawk that make, you know, videos on other, you know, different platforms. So it's crazy to think about that Tony Hawk is really dead. The soundtracks influenced my music taste. The game itself, I spent countless hours talking to people online, and I met a lot of new people playing the game. It's just hard to say that something I love so dear is dead, and it's really tough. So what's the future of Tony Hawk? We don't know. That's the thing. That's up for the developers to decide. That's up to Activision to decide. If anything, they should just end it, unless they're going to get Neversoft to work on it again, because there's no point for them to just continue beating this dead horse of these really bad Tony Hawk games that no one's going to buy. And it sucks, but unless they remaster, you know, their older games, they let Neversoft do that, I think they're pretty much screwed. So that's been my opinion on why I think Tony Hawk is going to die very soon. If not, it's already dead. And it really sucks because I love that game. And if anybody from the company Robomoto or Activision is watching this, I just want you to know that you got to do something very fast if you don't want to lose that entire franchise. And it's crazy how we're running out of time with that franchise. So thank you guys for watching. You guys have been listening to me, SRK. You guys can check out my channel below. I don't post as much Tony Hawk content as I want to anymore, but you know, the game's kind of boring. So hopefully I can get installed on Thug Pro very soon. I'm looking into that as soon as possible. Please go check out Knockout Wolf or Brody in the description. Thank you for letting me use his gameplay, let me talk over it. Thank you guys for watching. You guys have a great day.